7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. This is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, and I have a question. And, normally when I have a question, I want to lead you in a particular direction. I promise you I'm not trying to lead you in any particular direction, but this goes back toward the title of today's show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, you know that the 7th Congressional District race is getting a little spicy. Got a little spicy yesterday in the studio as we questioned congressional candidate Lee Reeves on his pledge to support term limit legislation, but he would not pledge to term limit himself, which I think is being a little bit disingenuous with the whole topic, but that's just me. I'm trying to take a Switzerland-type approach to the 7th Congressional District. I'm doing my best. In as much as there's like 28 candidates in the Republican primary. There's only 2, so far as I know, maybe 3. I guess there is 3 in the Democrat primary. Afton Bain, Bo Mitchell announced, and that third one, Vincent Dixie. Vincent Dixie, which is a fabulous name for like a John Grisham novel. Hello, I'm a lawyer, Vincent Dixie, at your service. Anyway, there's 3 in the Democrat side and like 12, 18, 127, everybody and their brothers running in the Republican side of things. I couldn't name them all. But I think you need to learn as much as you can in a condensed amount of time about as many of these candidates as you possibly can, to get a sense of who you want to vote for. We've had Gino Bolso on the show. We've had Lee Reeves on the show. We have Jody Barrett on the show. I've had Stuart Parks on the show in the past. We've not had him on since he's been a candidate for the 7th Congressional District. Matt Van Epps has been invited on the show. I have no idea when they're going to schedule it, but hopefully they'll be on sooner rather than later. And there are many, many other candidates. So I'm not taking a side in these proceedings. I'm determined to remain neutral and present the candidates to the listening audience with an opportunity for you to then decide, should you be in the 7th Congressional District, for whom you wish to vote. And so I'm not leading you in a particular direction when I ask this question. Club for Growth is out with a political ad. It's a hit piece on Jody Barrett. I'm going to play you the ad, and I'm going to give you a little background. And then I have a question. Do we judge Jody Barrett based on things that he said 9 years ago, or do we not? And I don't know. The answer might be different. Maybe some of you already know and like Jody. I like Jody for what it's worth. I'm just asking the open-ended question because it's not that he did not support Donald Trump in 2016. He didn't. I think he supported Ted Cruz in the Republican primary. It's the language that he used in his lack of support. And so, by the way, it should be noted, Club for Growth didn't support Donald Trump in the 2016 primary. Club for Growth said that a vote for Donald Trump would be ultimately an election for Hillary Rodham Clinton. So they've got some answering to do on their own, for what it's worth. But David McIntosh, who is the head of Club for Growth, put out this hardcore political advertisement earlier today, and they're planning on launching it throughout the 7th Congressional District. Here it is.
Jody Barrett, slippery as a snake in the swamp, slithering around our congressional district, saying he's pro-Trump. But Barrett opposed Trump for president, slandering him with nasty, venomous insults, calling him a liberal douchebag. And when Trump asked conservatives to pass Governor Lee's education freedom plan, Jody Barrett voted no. He'd be just another snake in the D.C. swamp. A slippery liberal we can't trust. School Freedom Fund is responsible for the content of this ad.
Now, I will say that this is the first time, as dirty as I've listened to politics get over the 25 years that I've been doing this radio show, it's the first time that I've heard a political ad use the word douchebag. But I suppose you want to quote him properly. So here's what Jody Barrett said 9 years ago. And once again, I'm asking a question. I'm not coming up with a conclusion. I don't have an answer to it. It's up to you. He said, hold on a second. What are you doing? What are you doing, phone? He said, so now the Supreme Court's important. If that's the driving force behind your vote, Ted Cruz was the clear conservative choice. Trump has been vague at best about what kind of justice he will nominate. The GOP had their best conservative candidate since Reagan, and they rejected him in favor of a New York liberal douchebag. So Barrett said that after Trump had secured the nomination for president of the United States in 2016. Now, Jody Barrett says every candidate will say they're pro-Trump. Every candidate will say they're conservative. But only one has perfect conservative voting scores from two separate and independent watchdog agencies. Don't take my word for it or the keyboard warrior experts. Actions speak louder than words. I guess my question for you is it fair to bring up what Jody had to say 9 years ago about Donald Trump? Particularly if Jody is going to, and once again, this is not an indictment or a judgment. I'm just asking the question because it's come up. Is it fair that certain groups like Club for Growth was anti-Trump back in 2016 too. So I don't know. They're kind of throwing rocks in a glass house, it feels to me like. But the question remains. I mean, they're not running for 7th Congressional District. Jody is. And he's running as a Trump man. But he wasn't a Trump man at the beginning. And some would suggest the concern is that these sour grapes existed long after Donald Trump secured the nomination in 2016. I guess what I'm asking is, does it matter to you how he believed about it 9 years ago? And more recently, does it matter to you that Donald Trump supported and promoted the Tennessee school choice bill that Jody Barrett opposed? Now, we had Lee Reeves on yesterday, and I was a little bit frustrated with that candidate regarding he says he's for term limits. I mean, and once again, I don't know these folks. This is not personal to me. I just want to get some truth out of the candidate so we can present the truth to the people of the 7th Congressional District and give you the ability to make the best possible choice for you and your family. So when I go after Lee Reeves, I heard it. I heard from the Lee Reeves folks. They were all mad at me. You're being a jerk. Why are you going after him on term limits? Why don't you shut up about all that? And I'm certain that I'll hear from Jody Barrett's folks today for bringing this up at all. But I think it merits the question, if you're going to run as a Trump man today, do you not at least have to speak to the fact that you didn't just say, I'm against him. You didn't just say you're a truths guy. You called him a New York liberal douchebag. I mean, that at least merits an I'm sorry, right? And maybe he's already done that. And maybe and I don't know that for most it matters. I guess for Barrett supporters, it's not going to. My point is this. If you're going to run on being a Trump man, then you at least have to expect that this is going to come up from organizations like Club for Growth, and you have to expect that you'll have to answer to it. What do you say? Does it bother you? That's the question. 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Tom is in the borough. He's got a thought on it. Hey, Tom.
Good afternoon, Matt. You know what? Politics is ugly. Trump is from New York. Hell, so am I. You know, being a New York douchebag is just kind of sort of what we are.
Yeah, the biggest pejorative in that, you missed it, called him a liberal.
Well, there was a time when he was. And maybe some people went ahead and thought that when he took over and, oh, now I'm a Republican. You know, we've had that argument before, too. Well, you were a Democrat. Now you're calling yourself a Republican. How do we know you're actually going to be conservative? You never know until somebody actually sits down and, you know, says, this is what I'm going to do, or this is the vote I'm going to cast.
Well, it's one of the reasons that I don't, I just don't live in some of these, in some of these areas where because, you say, oh, well, he's a conservative or he's not a conservative or he's a real conservative or he's a rhino. And I think that changes from person to person based who's speaking. And I don't belong to any of the clubs, which is why I asked the question. I mean, so you believe from what you're saying, Tom, you think it's fair that Jody Barrett had that position back then?
I think what he said then was then. Trump hadn't gone ahead and come up with anything. He hadn't done anything. And for a good deal of America, particularly middle America, well, this guy was a Democrat. He was a businessman. And look at all the money he gave to the Republicans and to the Democrats. We can't trust him. And maybe that's what Jody Barrett was thinking. I don't know. I've never sat down and talked with the man. But, cut him some slack. Look at his actual voting record and say, hey, do I want this guy in Washington or not?
Following up on that, Tom, does it concern you at all? Part of the attack ad involves the fact that Donald Trump was in favor of the Tennessee school choice legislation, and Jody Barrett was one of a minority of Republicans that voted against it.
To be perfectly honest with you, Matt, if it had been my vote, I would have voted against it as well. I went to private school when I was a kid, but I paid for it. I went out, I got a job, and I did it on my own. I'm not saying that's possible for everybody, but
you went to private, like higher ed?
Yeah, high school.
High school.
And I went out, I got a job, and I paid
good
for my
for you.
tuition.
That's excellent.
Well, kind of ignored those labor laws. I was working full time at 13, but you do what you do.
No, I feel you. Well, point taken.
But,
I'm curious to get a sense of the audience on
it. You're paying your taxes. Part of your taxes go to pay for the education system. Now we're going to go ahead and take even more money out of the state, i.e. our money, and then we're going to go ahead and pay to send some kids wherever. And is that fair to the kids who can't go? Is that fair to the overall Tennessean?
Well,
I would argue no.
Well, I'm happy to talk to you about giving parents more choices when it comes to the school system. I mean, you're talking to a guy that doesn't necessarily believe that the government of the United States of America has an obligation to educate any child. How about that?
I wouldn't argue that.
Well, I mean,
it's the parents.
I mean,
it's the parents' obligation.
I mean, it's ultimately a parent responsibility. But if the parents don't take up that responsibility, then we better be willing to take up those kids and educate them as a ward of the state, if that's the hard line we're going to take.
But I mean.
But anyway, I mean, the point.
Calling him a Nazi is worse than calling him a New York douchebag.
Yeah, I mean, liberals are just lazy with the language. I mean, that's just liberal nonsense. But I asked and answered. I think you obviously, it doesn't bother you that much, and you forgive commentary from those who were anti. I just wonder. I feel like we've gotten to a line, and I think maybe the absence of Trump for 4 years gave us a dividing point. I have noticed that. I mean, look at J.D. Vance, for example. I mean, obviously, J.D. Vance is the vice president of the United States. I posted this question on social media, and someone brought up J.D. Vance to me and said, well, we've forgiven J.D. Vance. And my point with that was we forgave J.D. Vance because Donald Trump told us to. We didn't forgive J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance asked us to. We forgave J.D. Vance because J.D. Vance went to the man and begged his forgiveness, and Donald Trump absolved him of his previous sins and was okay with him being a United States senator from the state of Ohio, right? And that's how all of that went down. Those that have been forgiven primarily get forgiven by the man. JD, Marco, Teddy Cruz, etc. I'm wondering how you feel about the matter. 21 after the hour, Donna, John, and Travis, we'll get to your thoughts on this on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Thank you, Ken Weaver. 26 after the hour, Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Yours truly, Matt Murphy, until 7 o'clock tonight, along with Ken Weaver, along with Jackson and you. We've got Stuart McWhorter coming up in just a moment. He's with the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. We will talk tunnel, but not just the tunnel. We're going to talk nuke. We're going to talk energy. We're going to talk a lot of things. That's coming up right after the bottom of the hour. But asked and answered, many of you want to comment on whether or not it matters. I mean, so the attack ads are out, the long knives, as they say, are out. They're attacking Jody Barrett, Club for Growth, as a snake. What do you say? Does it matter to you what he thought about Donald Trump 9 years ago? John is next up. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
I'm fabulous. Thank you for calling.
Well, just to start off about the attack on what he said about Trump. Well, to be real, if I go and have a beer, I don't think I could drink a beer with Trump. Did I vote for him? Yeah. Do I necessarily like him as a person? No, I don't. I thought he was best for the country. And that's how we got to vote. You know, we vote for best for the country. And to go along with that, Mr. Barrett, one of the chillest guys you could ever meet. He is actually for the people. You know, you look at his record, his voting record, it's pristine. But if you got to look on why he went against some people on some things, it's because his constituents, and he follows what his people say. He a great dude, I'm telling you.
I mean, I hope you've heard Jody the many, many times that he's been on the radio show, John. I hope you're listening.
Yes, I have.
Well, I'm glad you do. All right, good deal. I appreciate the call. I appreciate the perspective. Travis is next up. Travis, what say you?
Hey, Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great, Travis.
It doesn't bother me at all what he said 9 years ago. I mean, none of us are the same person we were 9 years ago. I think that's a fair statement. And to be honest with you, in 2015, I wasn't on the Trump train myself. This is a guy who was a lifetime Democrat who had been a donor to many Democratic candidates, and you know, he was kind of a wild card. And I held my nose and voted for him because it was either him or Hillary Clinton, and that was a no-brainer. But once he got into office and, you know, a year and a half in, I saw what he was made of, and now I'm definitely in lockstep with him. But I think it's fair that a lot of us were kind of on the fence about him in the very beginning. But
yeah, what's most interesting to me about the comment is that it was after Trump got the nomination that he said it, and
right,
so
but he hadn't been in office yet, so you know he was still campaigning at that point, and people say all kinds of things in a campaign, but.
Well, Travis, not interrupt. What I'm saying is, so if Trump had secured the nomination, so it's just him and Hillary, that's my point, is that, I mean, I'm not arguing the point. I'm just saying, he said, you know, the GOP had their best conservative candidate since Reagan, and they rejected him in favor of a New York liberal douchebag, which begs the question then, okay, so if he was already the nominee and you think of him as a New York liberal douchebag, did you vote for him in 2016? That's where I was kind of going.
I can understand what you're saying, but I think it was just in context. He was comparing him to Ted Cruz, and at the time, I thought that we had rejected our best conservative candidate since Ronald Reagan because I was a Ted Cruz guy. So I could kind of understand where he was coming from. I don't think he should have called him a New York liberal douchebag, but I can understand that he's, you know, 9 years go by, people change, man.
Yeah, no, I get it. I know, I like it. No, I appreciate that. That's what I'm looking for, is that kind of response to the question asked, because you're going to hear a lot about this, brother, over the next 2 months. I promise you. And, you know, Jody is going to have to decide, and I assume he'll answer the question as he always does. With straightforwardness and you know, forthrightness, and he'll figure it out. It's time for the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'll put it on the back burner. We're talking politics, 7th Congressional District, and, you know, asking the question because, you know what, when you start talking politics, it starts getting negative, and it's already getting negative in that race, and we feel like we're just getting started. But believe it or not, about 2 months from now, folks will start voting in the 7th Congressional District, being a special election. But we'll put that on the back burner for the next few minutes as we welcome our next guest into studio. He is the Commissioner for the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development, Stuart McWhorter, joins us in studio to talk about all of the exciting news that's going on in the state of Tennessee. And not all of it is tunnel news, everybody. Not all of it's just about the tunnel. Stuart, what's going on? I'm doing great. Thank you for stopping by. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Good to see you.
I knew I'd get a smile on your face when I mean, you know, sometimes it's the little things that catch all of the attention.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, the tunnel got a lot of great attention. We love it because it's going to be a great thing for our city.
I mean, is that something? I mean, as the steward of economic and community development, I mean, I guess you don't want that to be the whole pie. It's just a small piece of the pie, but it matters, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we've got an airport that's growing. It's continuing to grow. It's being recognized across the country as one of the best and busiest airports. It's a great recruiting tool for us in the state, not just here in this community or Middle Tennessee, across the entire state. And, you know, as it continues to grow, having options for passengers and tourists in particular to get in and out of the airport is important. And, you know, I know there's folks that question it. I'll just tell you that, you know, companies that are coming in investing a lot of capital in our state, and particularly in Middle Tennessee, that are hiring Tennesseans, they like it. And, we work really hard with industry to make it a very business-friendly state. And this is just something that we're very proud of. And, I know it's been said, but it's being privately funded by the company. I mean, they're coming in and spending the dollars. So we're excited to see this is one step toward, we hope, as it grows. And I've seen some things happening in Las Vegas with the tunnel project there. Hopefully we could see it expanding to places like Murfreesboro or Clarksville, cities or towns where we're seeing growth, people coming into the city that work, and this is an option for them. And I think that's a good thing. And so, we're excited to see where this goes.
For me, I just immediately become a kid, and it seems so futuristic that I get excited about it. But for the callers and for the listeners to the show, a lot of the, not concern, but just questioning is like, how will this impact me if I'm not a tourist?
Right.
Well, it'll impact you, I think, residually. It'll take some cars off the roadways, particularly on I-40 between B and A and downtown. But my comment was, to your point, well, if we see this successful, then the idea is, man, oh man, can we not grow it to continue to impact the local community as well as the tourism?
That's right. That's the hope. I mean, this is the first step. This is not just one and done, and it's going to go from the airport downtown and they're done. I think that their hope is and their goal is to expand this. One of the things they had indicated to us is this costing, $12-15 million a mile to bore a mile, and they will have this technology so advanced over the next, year or two or three. I'm not sure exactly the time frame. They're going to have the cost 3-4x less per mile. So
incredible.
You think about that. Then all of a sudden, tunneling up to Clarksville isn't far fetched. I mean, you get, as they say, if you're presenting an engineering problem, we'll fix that. If it's a cost problem, we're bringing our costs down. So the math will work if they can achieve that. And they own, those boring machines. They own and engineer that. That's not outsourced. It's them.
Right.
They're a technology company.
Right. We had, I know he's your good friend and you work for him, Governor Bill Lee.
Yes.
We had him in studio last week. Yeah. And I asked him, I said, it has to be exciting. One of the selling points, I said, look, I know that you're not out of office tomorrow or anything, but, you have less time as governor than you had previously. And for them to sell you the idea that, hey, we believe that we can take you from the airport to downtown Nashville as governor of this state, we can make that happen in the next year and a half before you leave office. That's a pretty awesome selling point considering that time frame.
Yeah, it could happen. They were telling us 2 years, so the governor's got 16 months. So we'll see. Maybe there'll be a little competition.
Ramp it up, baby. Ramp it up. Well, I mean, but it does beg the larger question, and several audience members have asked me, and I just got it a moment ago from one of our super texters. So with more electric automobiles, that's it's going to drain their grid. It has to. I mean, obviously those cars have to plug up somewhere,
right,
and they have to get their electricity from somewhere. That's a part of what you do, is it not? Is to make sure that we have the electricity available for business and commercial opportunities like this.
Yeah, we're partners with the Tennessee Valley Authority. That's our power provider in the state. I think your listeners likely know this. They represent, or they provide power to 7 states, but Tennessee is the one state where they pretty much have full coverage. Almost 100% of the entire state relies on TVA's ability to generate and transmit power. And so we work closely. They have a whole economic development team that's our partner in projects that we work on. So when we talk to businesses that are coming to our state and they're speccing out their projects, they ask us, or we're asking them, what are your power needs? And they'll provide a schedule around that. And what's happening is more and more of these businesses are requiring more and more power, whether it's advanced manufacturing, whether it's these data centers that are starting to pop up around the U.S. It's just the requirement is enormous, and so TVA, they are front and center in figuring out how to generate and transmit that power, and so we work very closely with them. But yeah, I mean, it's if we're going to continue to grow as a state, as a country. Whether it's to your question and point around electric vehicles, it does require a power grid. They have to utilize that. But really, what's driving most of what we see around power demand is around these manufacturers that are coming in and requiring just an enormous amount of power to do what they do.
I know that you were recently abroad. You were in France,
Right.
and you and I had an opportunity to briefly talk about this right before we came on air. I think the French. I mean, look, I could make a joke and say the French don't do much right or whatever. Well, they do cheese right and they do champagne right, but
Good wine.
I feel like they're doing great wine. I think they're doing energy right.
They are.
And do we have an opportunity to kind of look at that? Is that part of the reason you were there, to kind of look at the model that they're presenting as a way for us to move forward, particularly when it comes to nuclear energy?
Yeah, so France, the French do produce a lot of their power is generated by nuclear power. So we were there primarily for the Paris Air Show, and that's an annual. They alternate between there and England, but this year was in Paris. And so we were there for that, and we were meeting with companies that are representing the aerospace and defense industries, which we have a pretty large presence here of that industry in our state. But we went down to southern France to visit a company there called Orano. Orano is a large French company that is a uranium enrichment in the uranium enrichment business. And so we last year announced a project in Oak Ridge with Orano, and they're investing billions of dollars to create a new uranium enrichment plant, which is part of this whole nuclear ecosystem. I mean, it's a fuel that is necessary for the ecosystem. So, we went down there to see it in action. It's a massive, massive complex there in France, and part of it for us was to see it. They were saying, here's what we're going to be doing in Tennessee, in Oak Ridge. They're going to invest again well over $4 billion initially in the construction of this plant. They're going to have about 300 employees to start, and we'll expect more. But I think for us and the governor, he was there, and it was really our opportunity to see it and have a better sense of the magnitude and scope of what Orano will be doing in our state.
Where are we? In my line of work, it is sometimes difficult to figure out what's real and what's politispeak. And it's never been more difficult on a national front to figure that out because a lot of the media organizations that are out there, many times you feel like they're presenting information under the cloak of, well, this is the Trump administration or, vice versa. With that in mind, it's difficult to get a feel for where the economy is. And so I feel like if I have the commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development on the show, I should say, Commissioner, what's the report card on the Tennessee economy right now?
Yeah. Well, I'm not an economist for sure, but I will tell you just from the seat that I have in this role, and I'm honored to have this opportunity to serve the state for the governor. We are seeing a mixed bag of things. I think, large businesses, particularly technology companies, are making investments. They're looking to sort of keep progressing along and really with understanding that there still is some uncertainty in the tariff conversations.
Sure.
But they're looking at the long game and making investments. Manufacturers, particularly automotive, I think they're on a wait and see. They're starting to get some clarity. We have 4 major automotive OEMs in our state. We're just one of maybe 2 or 3 states that have that many. So we're, automotive heavy. We have close to 1,000 automotive suppliers, tier 1s and tier 2 suppliers. So it's a big deal to our state. What we're seeing, though, as a result of just the tariff talk, we can talk about interest rates and whether or not they should be cut, the inflation. I know the inflation continues to sort of hang around. We're still seeing this across the country, unemployment. In Tennessee, it's a little bit better. There is a bunch of demand. There's a pent-up demand happening right now. We were talking, I was with some of my colleagues earlier today, and I think we added up close to well over $10 billion of project capital expenditure that are just waiting in the wings, that we're talking to. That's a significant amount of opportunity in our state. And what's happening is they're just waiting to see what's going to happen. I think we're starting to get clarity with, the Trump administration. They're getting deals done. I think the other piece of it, what we're talking to CEOs about it is the cost of capital. So I think an interest rate cuts will help. I think that's just going to get them off their wallet. They just need to know the cost of capital, what that will be, and if it's starting to trend down and they're starting to see an interest rate cut or a series of cuts, that's going to be good for the economy, not just here in Tennessee, but certainly across the country, where you're just going to see these investments are going to start happening. You know, I've said this before, but we were seeing a trend toward onshoring and U.S. manufacturing post-COVID. You know, that created this supply chain issue and challenge that, you know, companies were feeling across the globe, became a real thing here. And so customers, you know, were demanding to be closer to their suppliers and vice versa. So we're already seeing this, and we've announced so many projects across the state because of that. So it's happening. What's happened in the last, 6 to 9 months is that, okay, wait, now you're talking about tariffs. That's impacting, short-term bottom line, but longer term, I need to know where we're going, and I'm going to wait and just kind of see what's going to happen. And what I'm telling you, and I'm confident in this, that once there's clarity, and I think interest rates are addressed, I think some of the stuff that people are waiting to hit go on are going to hit go.
I've been saying this for a while, Stuart, and you can either disabuse me of this notion or you can confirm that my instincts were correct, because I think if you understand I understand how people that wanted to be freaked out about some of the tariff talk from the president would be freaked out.
Right.
I feel like people that kind of get a sense of where he's trying to get in terms of negotiation, the key here is patience, to be patient, to let him get where he needs to go and not freak out early on. And we saw a little bit of that market fluctuation, frankly,
right?
Where people were like, holy moly, what are you talking about? 50% tariffs here and 35% tariffs there where there weren't any. But now as we walk through, these negotiations by necessity have to be very public.
Right.
But where we get can be beneficial in the long run if we have that patience.
No, I think that's key, is the long run here, the long game, and having sort of this 3, 5 year, 10-year horizon. But the smaller businesses, many of them don't have the luxury of that time.
Sure.
And that's where I think we're seeing some of those businesses struggle, because they've seen prices increase, their cost of doing business is going up. Passing it on to the consumer is, without, making it absorbent to the consumer, but also trying to keep their doors open. I think that's where we're hearing, a lot of the pain. Larger companies that have large balance sheets and cash to wait it out can do it. But I believe in the long run, if we can weather this thing, those small businesses that are feeling the pain today are going to thrive in the future because of all the reasons we're talking about. We're bringing back, we're leveling the playing field. We're giving entrepreneurs and small businesses an opportunity to benefit, just like the large businesses, who are going to really kind of keep that ripple effect happening in our economy. And we are Tennessee's so diverse in terms of large and small businesses. We have such a great small business community and entrepreneurial community that will benefit from this, but it's just going to take some time.
Do you look at yourself? I think I might have asked you this the last time. Stuart McWhorter's our guest. He's the commissioner of Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. We only have a couple of more minutes, but do you look at yourself as kind of the salesperson for the state of Tennessee?
In some weird way.
I don't mean to talk down your position, but you're kind of you're there like, listen, this is what Tennessee has to offer you. Yeah. Let's talk about what you need, what you can offer us, what we can offer you, and let's make a marriage happen.
That's what we do. We're selling the Tennessee brand.
Right.
That's a great product to sell across the world.
What's next? What innovation is down the road? We mentioned energy. We mentioned the possibility of nuke. We talk about some of these things. Is there anything on your horizon that you want to tell everybody?
Well, we're monitoring how AI is impacting, all businesses, small and large businesses. That's a significant thing in our economy right now. It's happening quickly. It's moving as fast as it possibly
can. Insane.
It really is. We have, interestingly, in Chattanooga, we have a whole quantum asset down there, quantum computing, and that's something that we're going to keep an eye on. I think it's going to benefit not just Chattanooga, but the state in terms of what's happening in Chattanooga and with Oak Ridge National Labs. Of course, I think we've talked about what's happening in Memphis with XAI. They are doing things that a lot of people thought they could never do, and it's happening. And so I'm excited. I think Tennessee's positioned well for the future. We have a lot of great investments that the governor has led over the last 6.5 years that we're starting to see the fruit of that. We happen to be logistically just right in the middle of a lot of states.
Good place to be.
It is a good place to be.
Stuart, thank you so much for giving us an update. I so appreciate your willingness to come on with us, talk directly to the folks, let them know what's going on in terms of their state and the stewardship of what we have to offer these businesses that are coming into our state. Those things don't happen by magic. They happen through hard work, and we appreciate your hard work in your
I love
department.
it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Stuart McWhorter, everybody. We'll be back in a moment. It's 55 after the hour on Super Talk. Pardon me, Aaron. I don't mean to interrupt Aaron Stokes. Have you been to Volunteer Outfitters? Have you seen the incredible selection? Friends. School is coming back into session, and they got school gear for the youngsters at Volunteer Outfitters in Hendersonville for less money than you're going to pay for those Nashville prices. Secondarily, if you want to outfit yourself for the college football season, they got gear for just about every team in the old SEC. You can find them at Volunteer Outfitters. Secondarily, if you're looking to outfit yourself for the upcoming hunting seasons, bird season will be all going on in the fall. Well, you need to get out to Volunteer Outfitters as they begin to slowly but surely stock their shelves with all that you need to equip yourself for the outdoors. That's what they do at Volunteer Outfitters. They are just a mile or two down the road from all those big city prices, but they have the incredible brands like Drake, like Huck, like Bandit, and the like. Find them at New Shackle Island Road, just off of Vietnam Veterans Parkway. And when you find them in Hendersonville, tell the gang, Tommy and his team at Volunteer Outfitters, that Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Volunteer Outfitters.